One of my biggest disappointing games of all time has to be Street Fighter V when it came out back in 2016. I named it one of the worst games that year for a multitude of reasons. I thought that it had a lack of content. I thought the gameplay was way cut down compared to Street Fighter 4 or Street Fighter 3. And most damningly, it was basically just a glorified early access game being sold to you for $60, and you had to keep paying for DLC if you wanted the rest of the content. And even after the fact, it still felt pretty undercooked. So I decided to clear my head. I just left Street Fighter V behind and explore the realm of video gaming. So I decided to get back into the game with Street Fighter V Arcade Edition, the definitive version of Street Fighter V. It's nice that Capcom finally completed the game after 2 years. And how's it hold up? It's kind of meh. Street Fighter V is first and foremost an esports title. Capcom tried to assuage some of the complaints that the casual crowd had with Vanilla 5 with an arcade mode and some other single-player flavorings, but they are pretty unsubstantial, and that's the recurring issue throughout Street Fighter V's life. The arcade mode is where most gamers will spend their time, and it's kind of interesting to tell you the truth. Each route is limited in characters and in opponents to fight against to each Street Fighter title from Street Fighter 1 all the way up until 5, barring the EX games of course. The only reward to doing arcade mode is some artwork, which is cool, but it's not really worth going through all the hassle through all the characters and modes to get them all. Beyond arcade mode, why did it take Capcom 2 years to put on a basic arcade mode, you lazy fucks? There's a cinematic story, the character stories, and survival mode to chew on. The cinematic story is really cheesy and is blighted by constant clipping and some very awkward animations. These models were not designed to work in a 3D space. The character stories are short and are told through kind of cute Bengus art, but again, the rewards aren't worth going through all the hassle to go through all the stories. Survival mode is just anus, just ignore it. If you do decide to clear some of the trials, some of the character stories, and the cinematic story mode, you do get a little bit of fine money for your trouble, and you can use that money to buy the in-game DLC instead of using real money. But you can also earn money from the extra battle, which is just really annoying in my opinion. Yeah, you do get some special rewards, yeah, you do get a little bit of extra fine money, but it's kind of annoying in my opinion. Beyond the lackluster single-player modes, Street Fighter V is somewhat good about teaching players about the mechanics of Street Fighter V and the characters with the trial mode and the training mode. I use trial mode a bit to mess around with characters before I realized the only character I like in 5 is Nakali. Training mode has more features like frame data that professional players are going to love, but casual players might feel alienated, as those modes just really aren't made for them. Despite the additions made to Street Fighter V's content, it still really pales in comparison to its peers. Look, I already know what some hardcore players are going to say. They're going to say, no, this is a fighting game, it's all about the gameplay, single players don't matter, yada yada yada. And okay, look, I'll meet you halfway to that argument. But if that's the case, Street Fighter V needs solid gameplay. It needs solid, deep gameplay to keep you coming back for more, right? The fact of the matter is, Street Fighter V's gameplay is pretty meh. If you weren't a fan of Street Fighter V's gameplay before, Arcade Edition won't change your opinion. The problems that Street Fighter V had are still here. The shimmy is still here. Characters still have stubby normals. Why isn't my foot hitting her? Anti-airs are a little bit better though. Capcom is trying to spice things up with additional V-triggers for each character. Some characters might get a new special move, maybe they'll get a parry, or maybe a new installed trigger altogether. The game is still early enough in its lifespan where players aren't messing around with both of their characters' respective V-triggers, and we'll have to see what this leads to going forward in the coming months, if we're going to see both V-triggers for each character being used, or if you're only going to pick a few for each matchup. I feel like the biggest problem that blighted Street Fighter V is that they tried to give each character something unique, but in doing so, they made each character kind of boring and weirdly samey at the same time. Most characters have the same kind of hit confirms with a medium attack into a special move, and their general gameplay involves getting in that ass and trying to build V-gauge, and then that's it. That doesn't apply to each character, obviously. Some characters have very unique mechanics and very interesting to play as, characters like Zeku with his stance changing, Minot with her orb setup, and Urien with his Aegis reflectors. But overall, I can't help but feel that Street Fighter V would have benefited from more universal mechanics, such as a focus attack, or something like a parry. Fuck, so many characters have parries as their V-triggers, they might as well just have made it this game's unique mechanic. And look, Capcom, if nothing else, please just add far and close normals again. And get rid of the Storby normals while you're at it. Give us range, man. Balance seems okay so far. Zangief got nerfed pretty hard, but right now you can do some damage with your character of choice with the right mind games and the right mentality. But fuck Laura though, that character can eat a bag of dicks, and she probably does. Wanna know how to play Laura? Do this. Online mode is passable. I've been having more good matches than bad matches online in Arcade Edition, and by the bad matches, I mean I keep getting those annoying jittery messes online. There's still no region filtering, which is an annoying shame. If you play online, please use a wire connection and stay within your own region. Presentation is decent in 5. They went with a game show-esque presentation, trying to cater to more of the esports crowd. It makes you feel that you're on the big stage at EVO, at CEO, playing against the top players in the world. It's garish, it looks like Bob Barker and Drew Carey did the double Dutch rudder on the UI, but it works. Most characters look pretty good, barring the Ken face and Sakura's meth addiction. And finally, there's a lot of loading in Street Fighter V. Like, a lot of loading. You're waiting to log in, loading in between modes, waiting for updates. Maybe it's just because I play online a lot, and there's a lot of waiting in between rounds. I heard the game runs a bit faster on the PS4 Pro, but I'm not esports enough yet for a Pro PS4. Despite my complaints, when I am in a good match, I have a lot of fun with Street Fighter V. There's a lot of issues with Street Fighter V in both content and gameplay, but at its core, it makes the competitive side of me come back for more. Make no mistake, despite the shallower gameplay, the better player will always win in Street Fighter V, and it will make you feel like a jackass for even attempting to play at times, like me against this Karen user. I can't but feel that Street Fighter V isn't too sure who it wants to appeal to beyond the esports sponsors. Casual fans will be disappointed with the DLC practices and the lackluster content. At the same time, hardcore fans will be put off by the shallow gameplay, leading to a mixed bag overall. Not a terrible bag, mind you, but just something that's just kind of underwhelming. I feel like Street Fighter V gets by because of its brand recognition, because it's a Street Fighter title, because people love these characters, and it doesn't help that this game is being really buoyed up with a lot of money for the esports crowd. So I feel like it's mainly geared towards that community rather than the rest of the gaming scene. And while Capcom did address some of the issues the competitive scene had, it overall feels way weaker in comparison, especially compared to other fighting game titles like Kingdom Fighters 14, BlazBlue Central Fiction, Injustice 2, etc, etc. That's why my final grade for Street Fighter V Arcade Edition is a 6 out of 10. It does enough to pass the test, but honestly, other than the competitive crowd, I don't really see this game having much shelf life for non-competitive players or non-fighting game fans. Ironically enough, I'm actually entering an EVO Japan for Street Fighter V because I'm terrible at fighting games and I can kind of play this game a little bit, so I'm a scrub. Woo! But anyway guys, thanks for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I will be at EVO Japan! I'm so excited, my first EVO in like 4 years. I'm going to be doing some photography, entering Smash Bros, getting bodied in Street Fighter, and probably drinking a lot. Anyway guys, yeah, that's all I gotta say. See you next time, and make sure when you play this game online, please use Wired. Please.